Mission Report, May 6, 2016.
Marv, what are you talking about?
I want Mission Report, May 6, 2016.
May 6, 20... Oh, the day that Civil War came out. Okay, I see what you did there, Marv.
Mission Report, May 6, 20...
Marv, we get it, okay? What's up, family? Follow Marvel here, and as promised, we're gonna get into some spoiler talk for Captain America Civil War. In this video, we're gonna look at specific parts in the movie that I thought that were very interesting, whether it's good, somewhat questionable, or whatever, but either way, let's sink our teeth into this movie. No thanks to Marv trying to do pseudo Jedi mind tricks to get me to talk about the movie. Well, you can't blame the guy for trying, so let's go ahead and get to it. The first thing I want to talk about with this movie are the character motivations from that of our protagonists and antagonists. Now, everybody who's been following this movie up to this point have seen all the promos, all the choosing the side, whether you're Team Cap or Team Iron Man. And I have to say that even though the movie sort of follows what the promo is doing, essentially by the end of the movie, you're going to understand both characters' point of view. You start to see things play key roles in the decisions that these characters make. So it's not like everything is happening and characters just make snap judgments. So I found that very interesting, and it really got you more attached to these characters who we've basically been following for the past 8 years. So what gets the ball rolling is an accident that happens in the first action sequence involving the Avengers, comprised of Cap, Widow, Wanda, and Falcon. A very well executed action sequence, I might add.
FM, of course you will add, you fanboy you.
Marv, stay on topic, please. What happens is everything leads up to Cap and Crossbones basically throwing hands. And what happens is that once it gets to a point where Crossbones has to take a knee, he basically distracts Cap with an exchange by bringing up Bucky. And with that distraction, he decides to go kamikaze by trying to blow himself up and taking Cap with him. But little did he know, Scarlet Witch was right there at that exact moment, and she was trying to contain the blast. Seemed like a good idea at first until Wanda kind of missed the mark when she was trying to lift Crossbones and the explosion away from general populace, but I guess she couldn't get it high enough, and he wound up going into a side of a building, causing a very terrible accident. Unfortunately, some of the casualties were from Wakanda, so now you know it and got serious. It's at this point when it seems like Cap and Wanda kind of have to sort of regroup themselves, like mentally, and try to sort out this untimely destruction and really looking at themselves whether or not that they are doing more good than harm. And I really feel that this is really setting up for the tension that at least Cap is somewhat seeing within himself, and as well what he stands for as an Avenger. Now this next scene proceeds to set up Tony's motivation and basically showing all the key things that plays into his decision making. Tony is demonstrating this holographic memory therapy gizmo that he invented, and apparently it's supposed to help people get through painful memories that they've had. And it shows Tony speaking with his parents supposedly the day before they died. And the cool thing is all I gotta say is the visual effects team strikes again, because they managed to knock 30 years off of RDJ in this scene, and he looks like he's 19. Anyway, he ends up approving the grants for all of these MIT students, and apparently there's some kind of trouble in paradise because there's a part where he's speaking from the teleprompter and it mentions Pepper, but for some reason she didn't show up, and it's at that point the writing is on the wall that it's pretty much that him and Pepper broke up for some reason. So already it appears this man is not having a good day. Then on top of that, he excuses himself, then speaks to this woman out in the hallway, and they exchange words. Come to find out that her son was in Sokovia when the whole Age of Ultron thing happened, and her son died. She blames him. He's feeling guilty about it, of course. So that is starting to paint a picture to what Tony is trying to achieve and basically trying to right the wrongs that have been done with him being Iron Man.
The old casualty of war angle.
All right.
I'll buy that.
Marv, what's not to buy? That's real stuff going down, bruh.
But I still kind of find it weird how come Wanda wasn't able to get the guy in a safe distance in the air. So I am still trying to figure that one out.
Well, Marv, I had questions about that too, but the way they were portraying her in this movie, which I'm assuming is somewhat similar to the way they portrayed her in Age of Ultron, even though that she has these powers and all that, they still portray her as being young and a little bit kind of, being a wayward soul and still essentially trying to figure out her power. So even though she knows how to use them to an extent, I still think she's eventually going to figure out that there's more to them.
Is this just going to be an ongoing thing with you having to answer for everything?
If you mean logically analyzing things to where they make plausible sense, then yeah, I guess it is, Marv.
I don't like you, FM.
Cap eventually explains his stance on the whole debacle. Like, essentially, obviously, it was a terrible accident, but if you look at it in terms of you were looking at a fireman, and firemen goes in risking their lives all the time to save people from a burning building. Sometimes they don't make it in time to everyone, so it's just essentially that, they try to save as many people as they can. Sometimes doesn't mean everybody.
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen, quoted right from the movie. You fanboy you.
I'm not even going to dignify that with a response.
But didn't you just respond?
My head hurts. When they get to the part where Thunderbolt Ross gives them the treaty to sign in order for everything else to be sanctioned, that's when everybody starts giving their 2 cents on where they stand. And I really think this is a pretty nice scene to really put some things in perspective. The treaty is named Sokovia Accord. So basically what it is, it was signed by the 117 countries, and through the United Nations, they are to sanction the Avengers where they need to go most needed. And what I like with Captain America's explanation is that what if the United Nations sent them somewhere, but they're actually needed somewhere else and they aren't allowed to go there? And it really makes you stop and think, like, you know what? That wouldn't be a good thing at all. Like, if we're really needed in one place, but they send us to this one place that really doesn't need as much help as they let on. And then you get Tony's outlook on it, and he's spearheading that, look, what we've been doing in the past has left casualties in our wake and a lot of destruction, and people are not liking that. We have to sign this thing so we can get back in the public's good graces. On top of that, then there's that kid that is pretty much on Tony's conscience that he's also thinking about. So it's like, this can't happen again. We have to abide by these, this treaty so we can at least get on the government's good side and they're not breathing down our necks. But, that's the whole problem, that if you don't sign it, you basically have to retire, as Thunderbolt Ross put it. Essentially, this is the scene that basically airs out everybody's grievances, whether they're for the treaty or against the treaty. And it's definitely a scene that's worth watching. And to add more to Captain America's resolve, he unfortunately gets that fateful text that Peggy Carter died. So the next part is showing him in London at her funeral. And again, that's kind of what's bringing the feels out. Like, you were getting attached to these people's situations and where they are coming from. And that's what I think the Russo brothers did a really good job as far as establishing characters' motivations and where they stand. So it's not like people are just plopping like, oh, I'm on this side. No, I'm on this side. It's not so cut and dry in that there's reasons why, and I really think they did a good job with that.
Well, that's all well and good. Our protagonists got their resolves, but what about our antagonists, which pretty much feel like he didn't do nothing?
Okay, now when it deals with Baron Zemo, I'm thinking that a lot of people are really taking his role with a grain of salt, because I'm feeling that a lot of people expected him to be this menacing and very strong presence as being a bad guy, but it went a different direction I still think worked. His whole role in this was to be a catalyst in causing a rift between these so-called heroes in his mind, and essentially Bucky was basically a means to an end. He wasn't this all-powerful force. He wasn't this big menacing villain with superpowers. He was just a man that lost a lot, and at this point, he really felt like he had nothing to lose. So his best laid plan was to find a way to turn the heroes on each other, or at least not directly, but definitely indirectly. And the way he played it out, I think, was very interesting. And it shows how influential just one normal person can be as opposed to an all-powerful bad guy.
But he still didn't do nothing, though.
You say that, but the beauty of it is that he already put the work in before the Accords actually happened. So when he actually put his plan into play, it really wasn't that much more he had to do. Like, he was able to frame Bucky by basically using the already huge notoriety that he already has. And then on top of that, he took advantage of the Hydra brainwashing that they put on him, which caused this whole thing and obviously put a big target on his back. And essentially, from all the files that Black Widow released during Winter Soldier, like, a lot of that stuff was already out there. So he took all this time deciphering all the needed information that he need, and he took advantage. And for the most part, he succeeded in a way.
I don't see how he's any different from any underdeveloped villain that we've seen up to this point.
Well, they didn't kill him off in the movie, so we'll probably see him again.